This place is pretty much on my doorstep. I have never ever been. I'm slightly embarrassed to say that. So today I thought was the perfect opportunity to come and have a look round. The sun is shining, it is absolutely glorious. This place has got so much history, it is incredible. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Bolsover Castle and its Playboy Cavalier owner. Bolsover is a small town that is based not far from the M1. I've just driven through actually, and it looks to be a really nice little town, little shops. It was quite bustly and probably worth exploring a little bit when I've finished here. But the castle that stands on the top of the hill just commands the most incredible views over the Derbyshire countryside. Now, the castle was acquired by the Cavendish family in 1612. The Cavendish family, who are still going strong today, they're a really influential family around these parts, and it was Charles Cavendish who acquired Bolsover Castle and subsequently began restoring and creating a fantastic palace fit for royalty. Charles was the third son of Bess of Hardwick, who was a very well renowned figure around these parts. She was known for building the Hardwick Hall, which I believe you can see on a clear day. It's a little bit misty today, so you can't really see it, but she was responsible for the stunning Hardwick Hall. Now, Bess, she loved a bit of wedding cake. She was married 4 times. She was born into a relatively modest Derbyshire family, but subsequently married 4 quite well-established gentlemen, I presume, and on each of their deaths she inherited, a fair whack of money. Quite lucky, wasn't it? Good on you, Bess. Have a look. There are little plaques around everywhere that give us obviously some details and background. So the Cavendish landscape, and that there is Hardwick Hall. Charles employed the services of Robert Smithson, a famous architect of the time, to help him construct what is now known as the Little Castle, and you can just see.
It's nothing new, but it's so good to see you. We do this every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold me tight through the night. Just us two, me and you.
This is the fountain garden, taking a walled garden to the whole next level, isn't it? And in the centre of it is Venus, the goddess of love. And there are some quite spectacular men looking up at her adoringly. I wonder what these little rooms are. Let's have a look. So you've got a little fireplace in there. I wonder what would have gone on in here. Is it an actual fireplace? Yeah, there is a chimney. Strange little room, and there are a few of these dotted around. So the fountain gardens are the main garden for the little castle. Unfortunately for Charles, he died before it was completed, so he never got to see it finished. It was subsequently left to his son William. Now William had quite a colourful life, and quickly, I think he inherited it. It was only in his early 20s. I've heard 23, I've heard 25, but nonetheless, he was a very young man, and he was quite eager to place his stamp on the style and the design of the little castle. See, that's a pretty little fireplace there. So these are almost like little garden rooms. Look at the ceiling, all the detail for such a small space. Now this doorway, I believe, leads us up onto the wall walk. Yes, it does.
I'm here to stay every single day. Yeah. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you.
Now the building across there are the stables. Really quite elaborate stables. So one thing about William is he was a very established horseman. It was almost his claim to fame in the day, and he would practice what was like a form of dressage. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. I think it's like menage. But he also wrote quite a few books about horse riding as well, and horsemanship. We're going to go and have a look in there in a bit, but look at that beautiful tree. I wonder how long that's been there. It certainly looks old enough to have been here in its heyday. And this is what's known as a terrace. So they were ballrooms, kitchens, and part of the main residence really, but unfortunately they've just fallen into complete disrepair. We can still go in and have a look, and I think there's quite a bit of information as to what each of the rooms were, but that was where they would have held all the banquets. It's a really nice layout actually. I like how it's quite enclosed in a courtyard feel, and then with the beautiful little castle there. I'd settle for a little castle like that. This wall walk has only just been restored. It was out of use for about 250 years, and it's a fantastic thing that they've done, to be fair, because it's a beautiful way to view the property and just look down. I'm sure it was a lot prettier back in the day when William would walk along here. So there's quite a lot of 80s buildings down there. In fact, Bolsover, the town, it played quite an important part in the the miners' strikes in the 1980s. I think it was one of the first places that went on strike, and yeah, the miners from around here played a very, very important part in that. Right, so what I want to do is go into the little castle. There is a doorway there just off the wall walk, but I want to go in through the front door. Got to arrive properly, haven't we?
I know it's nothing new, but it's so good to see you. We do this every day, and I'm still so amazed by you.
Just that little bit of detail up there on the corner. So beautiful. William was so heavily involved in the design of this place. He really wanted to put his stamp on it. It was a place of party, it was a place of extravagance. This was not the primary residence of the Cavendishes. That was actually at Welbeck Abbey, which is not far from here in Nottinghamshire. I think it's about 7 miles away. In fact, I'm going to go there, I think, on a vlog, because they've developed it and it looks a really quite cool place to visit now. There's so much happening there. But yeah, this was predominantly a holiday home. It was a place to come and enjoy the finer things. They would throw lavish parties, banquets. Yeah, you name it. It was a place fit for royalty. In fact, William did invite King Charles I and his wife here. He even went as far as commissioning a play by Ben Jonson, who was a famous playwright at that time, which was performed, so I've read, in the Fountain Gardens. So yeah, just imagine it, a lovely summer's evening, and you're having a play performed for you with amazing food and drink. Yeah, they certainly knew how to party in those days, didn't they?
It is said that William spent in the region of £15,000, a huge amount of money back then, when he hosted King Charles I and his wife, Queen Henrietta Maria. His attempts to impress the king are believed to be his way of trying to convince Charles that William was a suitable candidate for the role of Royal Master of Horse. This would put him in charge of royal transport and make him a close ally of the king.
So this would have been the main entryway into the little castle. And what a beauty she is. Just above the doorway there is Hercules, and he plays quite an important part, I believe, through the building. But let's go and have a look. King Charles I would have walked up these stairs. That's pretty awesome. There's Hercules again, wrestling with wild animals. So this would be a kind of like the receiving room. Probably come in here and have canapes. Wow. Look at the tiny little door. I like this lids too. Oh, nowhere. This is where you get locked if you misbehaved. It's a naughty cupboard. So this is the pillar parlour. Oh my goodness. Oh, gosh. Wow. So these little paintings depict the senses, I believe. I think that will be, is that taste? It looks like she's eating. That would be smell. That's vision, isn't it? Sight. She's looking at herself adoringly. Gosh. Look at the beautiful window. Everything in this room was chosen for pleasure and delight. Gosh. Does this do something? Oh wow, yeah. The fork was still at the novelty, and a napkin folding a high art. Alright, so that brings you back up onto the wall walk, which is what we've just done. And let's carry on upstairs.
For two reasons. One, because people weren't that tall.
That's right, yeah.
And also, what they would consider to be the most important reason if you're laid down, the evil spirits think you're dead, so they can take your spirit. But if you're sitting up, well, you've got to be alive, haven't you? So they can't come and take your spirit.
So you sit up in bed.
So you used to sit up in bed and sleep, sitting
Yeah.
up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is his bedroom. This was his toilet. I can't believe he had an ensuite. And in here is the Elysium closet, which is just stunning. Now this was classed as a playroom. William, he was a bit of a lad and he would bring his ladies here, prior to him being married, of course. I had to get that in. But yeah, he didn't get his Playboy reputation for nothing, so he would bring his ladies into this room, and there's quite, well, they're not really graphic, but there's lots of naked ladies painted on the ceiling. It's really quite beautiful. This was actually whitewashed by one of the later owners, who was a man of the cloth, and he didn't approve, so he whitewashed over all the paintings, and it was rediscovered in the 1980s, which was just incredible. That was called the Heaven Closet, which obviously is depicted in the paintings on the ceiling. This room was used as an office. There are a couple of cupboards here. I've just been speaking to one of the guys, and he's given me fantastic information. And these cupboards, they were just kind of a bit boring, to be quite honest. They looked like secret doors, but they were just to house things like telescopes, which William was a big collector of, with his second wife, Margaret. This is the secretary's bedroom. And one of the haunted rooms in the house. So when they have weddings in the castle, the bride and grooms are often brought up here to sign the register, and they have often seen the ghost of a nanny sat in the corner watching them. One of the later owners actually used this as a nursery, and unfortunately the nanny who looked after the children contracted influenza and passed away, and she haunts this room. It's quite a well-known place for being haunted, supposedly one of the most haunted castles in England. And there's a staircase as well, which I'm going to show you, which is back downstairs, and yeah, that's haunted by a little boy. Bottom floor now, and in the kitchens, and yeah, the first ever pizza oven, it looks like. Look at that. That is just like a pizza oven, isn't it? And is this the main prepping kitchen? Wow, yeah. Now it's really echoey in here. I'm going to go somewhere else. Can you hear me better? Yes, that's better. So I talked a little bit about it being haunted, and the guide was telling me that one of the stories that a servant who worked here, her son, 7-year-old Alfie, fell down a flight of stairs and was killed. Now, he told me there's a flight of stairs that are cordoned off, and I think these are those. And he's often spotted still walking up and down the stairs. Poor Alfie. Right, where does this take us to? This is the back door. Oh. Alright, back into the garden. wow, sunny. So that was clearly the entrance that the servants would have used, and the food would have gone down there for preparation. It would have been a really, really incredible place. The height of luxury. Yeah, pretty smart. So this beautiful tree, I have just been informed, is about 250 years old. They think it was planted in the 1700s, so yeah, that could tell a few stories, couldn't it? So I'm going to go into the stables now, which was the second thing to be built on this site. So the first thing was the little castle where we've just been. So that was completed first, and then he went over onto the stables. William was massively into horses. He was a master of his art, and it was the forerunner of dressage, something called menage. As I say, he wrote books about it, and dressage today is still based on what William used to practice in these stables. Let's go and have a look. The entrance is pretty grand, isn't it? Goodness.
The stables are designed in a grand yet functional style. The windows were high so the horses couldn't see out and get distracted. They had a sand floor to protect the hooves, and obviously a viewing balcony so William could invite his guests to marvel at his skills. They would have kept many horses here where they would have been trained in the art of menage, which would prepare the horses for battle. The beams which are visible today were once hidden behind a second floor. This would have housed the stable boys and other staff up in the eaves of the building.
Oh, so this is where they would live. So this would have gone all the way across. That's quite beautiful. Just the finials as well. So pretty. Yeah, so that's where the stable boys would live. By today's standards, it would actually turn into a really nice apartment, wouldn't it? But back then it would have been probably a little bit, ooh, you're up in the roof. We're going to go and have a look in the main terrace, and what's bizarre is that this was the final part of the renovation. This was the last thing to be finished, but yeah, it's the part that's in the poorest state of repair, unfortunately. But gosh, if it would have been maintained to the level of what the little castle is, it would have just been an incredible thing to see, because this is where they held the banquets, the big dining rooms and the big ballrooms. So let's go and have a look. That is a Cavendish crest above the door, I believe. Look at the size of the windows. It's just vast. Right, so let's see what we're stood in currently. Apartments fit for king. Oh, there's actually a layout there as well. So we're here, and that would have been the dining room. So they would have an amazing dinner in here, and this is the withdrawing room where they would probably go and drink and be merry. Flipping heck. So I'm assuming they are the kitchens. Let's have a look. Down there would have been beer cellar, wine cellar, pastry, boiling house, fuel store, wet larder. The parties must have been pretty big to have needed a beer cellar as big as that. And then through here would have been the gallery. And the terrace. And they would come out here and ogle the amazing views. So what happened to this is Bolsover Castle passed to different families. It moved on to the Portland family. They didn't see the need to have Bolsover Castle, and they didn't really want to maintain it. Because this was used as a party place, they would come here and they would use it as a base for when they'd go hunting out into the local area. The Portlands weren't interested in that. They didn't want to maintain it, so they just kept the residents at Welbeck Abbey. And as that fell into disrepair, they would come here and they would take away building materials from here, take them back to Welbeck Abbey to restore the building that they were residing in. Now, one of the other reasons is in that time it was quite fashionable to have a ruin on your land, so they almost created that with what they were doing. So by taking away all the building supplies, they were in turn creating this spectacular ruin that would be a bit of a ooh, look at that for visitors when they'd come. But goodness me, if only they knew what they were doing and what they were depriving us of. It's yeah, pretty cool, pretty spectacular place. I have pretty much covered it all, I think. Obviously my knowledge is not as in-depth as, you know, what you could get if you come here and see the guides and stuff. I've really skirted around the history, but just there's a lot of guides laying around and they do regular tours. It's really interesting. So it's worth a visit. I'm just going to head into the visitors centre now, which is just on the entrance. They've got a little play area as well, which looks nice for kiddies. Do you know, on a summer's day, I mean, it's beautiful today actually, but it's bitterly cold. But on a summer's day, it's a great place to bring the kids. Just because, well, it's a fantastic castle at the end of the day, isn't it? So I'm going to bob into here. They've got a little cafe, so I might grab a cuppa and see if there are any decent things to buy, because I like to buy a little thing just to keep, obviously, help out with the restoration of these places. Smells good. There's a button I've got to press on breaking it. Ooh, monopoly.
But you're doing something at the college or something.
Hiya, just suppose you've got anything gluten free, have you? Any buns or anything? The brownie's gluten free. Well, that sounds like a win to me. Oh, I tell you, I'm glad to be back in the car. I am absolutely frozen through. I've just had a coffee and a brownie in the little tea room that they've got there, and I could hardly pick up my coffee because my fingers were that cold. Anyway, yeah, back in the car. I've just bought Edward a little present. We love top trumps, and they've got this English heritage castles, which that should be good fun. It was £5. As I say, I always like to buy things in places like that because it's just, I think it's really important that we do preserve, obviously, our heritage. Another good thing to touch on, I am literally parked straight across the road from the visitor centre. The car park here is free, which is just like unheard of now. There is another car park across the road. It's relatively quiet today, it's midweek, and yeah, I'm sure it'll be much busier and harder to get parked at the weekends. But do you know what? That just makes such a refreshing change, that free parking. I'm going to have a drive round Bolsover now, and hopefully it might be worth looking around, and I'll definitely bring Edward back to have a look around the castle, because I think he'll really enjoy that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my vlog. Please like, subscribe, share, do what you do best. Really appreciate all your support, and yeah, I'm going to see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.